All right, so you can see at the bottom, yeah, we have the first participant joining. Hi, everyone. You know, I always, when we have the little briefing meeting, I always tell to my co-panelists, you know, we have this awkward first minute until everyone is getting online.
Somebody tell a joke.
Nick, go ahead, please tell a joke. I can use one.
2020 is the joke. The joke is on us. It's 2020.
Exactly. Perfectly
True.
said. Yeah.
True. Yeah, it's great for everybody who's joining. Thank you very much. You know, I'm dragging the formal hi out, you know, until we give everyone time to join. I think, you know, a minute or something, and then we get it started. But for everyone who is on already, thank you very much for being here the first time or again. As you know, this is a series, and we're really thrilled that apparently we are providing a lot of value because people keep joining. So fantastic, thank you.
And thank you for having us, Benny and Schumacher.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was actually debating, I mean, maybe I can use this like 20 seconds. I was debating, we just, you know, launched a coffee table book, and I just got it, and I wanted to hold it up and say, hey guys, you know, who hasn't seen it yet, with Rizzoli, we published it. You know, get it online and buy it. It's really, really cool.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting.
I love the cover already.
I know.
I'm hijacking this just for 10 more seconds, but this is one of 3 covers.
Oh,
amazing.
It's beautiful.
Oh.
And it's about finding your own design style. And Dara, our creative director, you know, is basically, you know, the driving force behind this. So it's really amazing, super thick, and looks beautiful on any coffee table book.
Love it.
Can't wait. Congratulations to you and Sarah and everyone.
Yeah, thank you. But that's not why we are here, I must admit. We're here to discuss, you know, very serious business topics. And I wanted to welcome everyone today to this webinar. And today it's about how to make most of your own time. We host these business success skill webinars every 2 weeks. And in case you missed one, or in case you have to jump up earlier today, you can watch all of the sessions on YouTube. You can either go on my Instagram page, which is Benni_Frowein, and you see there a link in my bio, or you go on YouTube and you Google, you know, you basically search for Business Success Skill Schumacher, and you're going to find it. But coming back to today, I'm really thrilled because I have 3 extraordinary interior designers and entrepreneurs and creative minds and time managers with me. And I would love to introduce you. I think Annie will now pull up, you know, exactly, perfect. So I would love to start with Allison. Allison is a native New Yorker, started her professional career in finance on Wall Street before pivoting to interior design and earning a degree from the New York School of Interior Design. Classically and creatively trained with legendary designers Bunny Williams and Jeffrey Billhuber in New York, Allison moved to San Francisco with her husband in 2011, where she quickly became one of the Bay Area's most sought after designers. In 2017, Allison opened Delegation, an interior design boutique in San Francisco's Presidio Heights neighborhood. So if you haven't been there yet and you're somehow close, you know, on your next trip, make sure to check it out. It's a beautiful store. And thank you, Allison, for joining today.
Thank you.
Then we have Nick Olsen. After earning a degree in architecture from Columbia University and mentoring under renowned decorator Miles Red, Nick started his eponymous firm in 2010. Nick creates comfortable, stylish interiors that nod to the past and his arch sense of humor while maintaining an air of modernity. At age of 24, Nick's first studio apartment landed on the cover of Domino magazine. And since then, he has designed many, many projects like Mid-Century Modern Home in Cincinnati, Park Avenue Apartments, and a Nantucket summer home, amongst many others. So Nick, thank you very much for joining today. And I love that we have those pictures in parallel because I love to have a voiceover and seeing the pictures. You guys really do incredible work.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
And last but not least, Margarita, also to you, thank you for joining. Margarita was raised in a small town in Venezuela, but earned her bachelor degree in industrial engineering and interior design in New York and Barcelona. Margarita went on to open her own interior design and decoration studio in Denver, Colorado, specializing in remodeling, furniture design, furniture curation, and the creation of experiences. With inspiration from Europe and Latin America, Margarita brings a technical, creative, yet down-to-earth approach to her interiors. Margarita, it's a real pleasure having you here today. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be part of this amazing panel for sure.
So I think, and then last but not least, also let me introduce myself real quick. I'm Benni Frowein. I'm Schumacher's president. We are hosting this series, and yeah, I think we are kind of ready to roll. I would love to start maybe just like recapping the last, I don't know, 4 to 8 weeks, and maybe we start with you, Allison. Like, how have you experienced business-wise the last 4 to 8 weeks? Because I hear a mixed bag of like, some are super busy, some say like, oh, we're recovering. I would love to hear how you've experiencing that.
Well, I have had a kind of unique situation. I've been in the midst of a very, very big installation. So prior to our shelter in place, I was 6 weeks away from installing a home in San Francisco I've been working on for over 3 years. And it was very big. So in the 6 weeks time of, the end of construction, when we reopened construction in May, it took 3 months. So I've been a bit overwhelmed with that. And I can say it was rather COVID related, having to start back up again. We knew it would be one thing, as we said, to turn the lights off, but then to turn them back on again was really challenging. So I've been very, very, very busy with that, needless to say. A few of my projects are about to and were slowed down because of COVID. So I'm in transition. But I will say for my shop, what has been very interesting is I've had an increased request for art. I've sold a lot of art. I never experienced that really before. And a lot of designers coming in and taking items on approval. So we are hearing about people who, want to freshen up their home and accessorize. And I've seen it more with my shop than on the design side. So that's been a lot of fun, actually.
Interesting. Thank you, Allison. Margarita, how is life in Denver?
Well, I have to say this has been a very interesting period of time as well with all the COVID. We felt a little bit of a slowdown between March and April with finishing a couple of projects, and some other clients kind of, wanted to kind of wait a little bit to see how things will evolve. However, in the last 8 weeks, we have seen our recurring clients as well as new clients very eager to get going, to pull the trigger. I think after spending so much time at home, they're definitely are just ready and eager to refresh their home, their offices, their kitchen, just finding those spaces where they can have some improvement. Okay. At the same time, I think that, it's been challenging with vendors. Finding, a lot of delays with lead times on materials and furniture pieces due to COVID. So it's been kind of that in between of that process of setting expectations with clients and saying, well, things are going to be moving a little bit slower than usual. But I think that just having that positive mindset has been very important to move slowly but surely with our projects and our clients' needs.
Thank you, Margarita. Nick, how's been life, design life in New York?
Oh, a bit of the same. We were kind of midstream on a couple projects that, of course, were delayed because of lockdown and quarantine for, some of my younger clients. And I just wanted to get in there and install and make things pretty like what we do. But we're finally getting to do that, which is that's the satisfying part. But I found that, it definitely got quiet March and April, but people are sitting at home and saying, we really want that runner for the hallway that we never bought, or it's time to pull the trigger on outdoor furniture. And, you know, now we're selling things like heat lamps because people want to use their outdoor spaces as much as they can because they're spending so much time at home. So kind of, you know, approaching things in a different way. And then I'm lucky that I've had clients buy homes outside of New York City because, you know, they don't want to shelter in place in their apartments or their kids. It's a school situation. And then I have clients looking at second homes right now, which is kind of exciting because I love to weigh in on real estate and what anybody's going to buy. But I would say in the past 4 weeks, I've seen a real uptick in let's get going, or I am going to buy this house. Let's, you know, get the contracts ready and blah, blah, blah. So it's hopeful. It's scary, scary, scary time. I don't know what 2021 will be like, but right now it feels pretty busy. So that's good.
Mm. I mean, you know, I wanted to use this time or this question to start with because, you know, obviously it's about time that you know, and a lot of different things are happening. And I think, you know, also the work per definition, and Margarita, I would love to start with you with the next question. It's so personal, you know, the work is so personal. I think something that a lot of people struggle with in our business is how do you separate actually personal and professional time. I think it's hard to start with as an entrepreneur because it's, you know, your own baby. But then I think this job on top doesn't make it easier. So how do you draw the line? What can you give, you know, like help the people watching us, like how to do that? How do you organize yourself?
Well, I have to say, Benny, this is a very interesting question for very interesting times. So I think my answer would be a little bit different 6 months ago. But now, I mean, we've been working from the home-based office since April, and I have 2 boys that have been, you know, remote learning. So nowadays it's even harder to separate work life from personal life. But I think something that has really helped me is putting things in calendars, being as organized as possible. So for us, attending our soccer events for our kids is very important. So I block my times. So just making really sure that I have enough time for family, and I'm not overcommitting with clients. So and I think that's something that has worked really well for me in the time being.
Well, you probably also don't have these crazy shopping trips that a client wants to do with you on a Saturday, you know, like you probably gain some time there back too.
Yeah, I think for me and for our family, since the get-go, weekends, I mean, has to be an emergency. So weekends are for family time, and my boys are very active. So we are always in a tournament and something similar. So it's really focusing in quality time for the family over the weekends.
Nick, you've been nodding to this like, oh, I keep the weekends clear. So number one, you know, my question also to you, you know, like, how do you draw the line? And maybe, you know, like adding one little piece to it with the weekend, how do you explain that to clients that you're actually not available? You know, like, how do you do that?
Believe it or not, I have designer friends who've written it in their contracts that they don't work weekends or after 6 p.m. I mean, that's bold and, you know, hard to enforce sometimes, but you know, I think the theme of this conversation is going to be boundaries, professional, personal, you know, what have you. And my private time, my weekend time is precious to me. And after 6 p.m. is sort of precious to me too. I've finally been able to catch up with my friends and do outdoor dining in New York City. And I've got my lovely little circle upstate. And you know, even though this is a service industry, there are still boundaries, and it's still a business that I conduct basically 10 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And, you know, like Margarita said, if it's truly an emergency, yes, I'm going to answer the text. Yes, I'm going to pick up the phone. But as my dear sister says, there are no decorating emergencies. It's not life and death. You're not, you know, on the front lines of COVID saving lives. But yeah, it's kind of, you know, creating boundaries and having an understanding with your clients about like, this is my work time. This is when I'm kind of not on the hook to respond. So.
Mhm. And you communicate that very early with, even if you don't write it in the contract, you just like do this in your kickoff meeting or?
Every client, I mean, that we're in the business of relationships too. So it's every client is different, every project is different. But yeah, I try to, if I don't say it as explicitly, I say it with example, hopefully. Certain people are grandfathered in that I've worked with for so long, and it's kind of, people take take liberties, but basically you just, if there's a text at 10 o'clock at night, you don't respond to the text until the next morning. So it's as simple as that.
Sometimes so hard.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. Allison, how do you do that? Because I'm sure on the shop front, you lock the door. People expect that, it's from whatever 9 to 6 or whatever that is. How do you do this in your design business? How do you, draw the boundary line?
I think I have slightly softer boundaries. I find that a lot of my clients become friends. And it's, again, as Margarita and Nick said, it's a very personal business. And now, especially, since COVID and we have Zoom meetings and, my clients are now in my dining room with me. And, there's just, I think, a very different feeling. And Instagram as well. We're really letting our clients into our personal lives. But I think everybody, is respectful. And I think it's trying to create that respect from the beginning that, our office hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. The shop is 11 to 5. But that being said, every client is different. Every situation is different. It's a service business. I get emails often from people who ask me to meet at the shop, after hours or on a weekend. And if I can, I'm absolutely happy to do that. I had a client who texted me over Labor Day weekend, and they were looking at purchasing a new house, and they had the realtor available on Labor Day. And so they asked if I could go see it with them. And I said, of course. So every situation is different, and I do exactly what Nick said, and just sort of try to set the example. I'm not going to reply to text messages necessarily at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, or if we're having a late conversation, I'll say, let's just take this up tomorrow when I get back to the office. So it's careful, but it's also it's okay to, chat after hours within reason.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the dance approach, no?
Uh-huh.
Delicate dance.
Exactly. We've come up with the question, we come up with a question just in our briefing before that I actually really like, and I wanted to ask you, how much of your time per week do you really end up using for design work? And then obviously the other question is, what are you using most of your time for the rest? So Nick, maybe we just start with you. How much design work do you really do per week, in percent?
Percentage-wise, I would say truly only 10% is true design if I'm scheming or designing a piece of furniture or, starting from scratch on a big project. I would say 10 to 15% is shopping, mostly online now due to COVID, but I've been to stores in person. Allison, I hope to get to San Francisco one day and shop at yours soon. But I would say the rest is, what is that? The rest, 75% is management, and it's communication, and it's emailing with the vendors, with the clients, with my office manager, Tara, who's right next to me, who's incredible and basically runs the whole show. But my work is highly detailed, and there are so many details, and there are so many opportunities for kind of failure. So it's just like, right before this, a upholsterer in Chicago had done sofa cushions wrong, and thank God they sent pictures in progress, because I was like, no, the Turkish corners are absolutely wrong. The folds are facing the same direction, but all those things take time to manage. So designing the sofa took no time.
Yeah.
But it's just the back and forth all day long, which is sometimes a pleasure because our vendors are mostly really nice and fun to work with, and it's fun to make pretty things. But that just when I sit at my desk, I try to get to inbox 0, and then it just creeps back up. It's like an avalanche. And I'm sure you all can relate, because you know, one email or one text creates 20 more. So
Interesting. Thank you, Nick. Margarita, how much of your time do you use on like real designing stuff?
Well, I'll have to agree with Nick. It's about 10, 15, 20 at the most. I wish it was more time. However, the management aspect is so important. You know, making sure that everything that is ordered is the right finish, the right color, the right fabric. So that part is so important through the process in a project. Just making sure that you are cutting those potential problems or you know, right on time and before you know, the piece arrives and is the wrong material. So I'll say that this my sourcing, a lot of online sourcing lately with COVID, it will be somewhere around the 10-15% as well.
Allison, is that similar to your life?
Yes. In fact, when I was a student at the New York School of Interior Design, I had a teacher at one point tell us that interior design is 10% design. And the other 90% is getting the project done and seeing it to completion. So I completely agree. I think design time with my team and me is probably 10%, kind of that initial design. And then maybe another 10-15% is working with the workrooms, as Nick mentioned, and the actual production, you know, curtain workrooms. If something isn't working out quite right, we may have to redesign it. Sort of the in progress part of the design. But it's pretty much 70 to 80% administrative work. And it's hard to get the design work done during the day because, again, as Nick said, you're constantly interrupted with emails and problems, and you know, having the quiet time to sit down and be creative is, I find, after hours.
Yeah, thank you, Allison. I mean, we have one anonymous attendee who's just writing, you know, so glad to hear that you guys spend so much time on management. That is what so much of our business is. The prettiness and fun is pretty small. The management is important in consuming. And you know, the attendee, you know, also asks, you know, how do you delegate? What do you do yourself? So I would, you know, I have this question prepared a little different. I would love to segue into that. And Allison, because you went last, the last question, you go first now. I would love to know, you know, what are the, let's say, 3 areas you really think it's important you spend time on it yourself that you can't dedicate. And then, you know, we go around, and after that, I will ask, you know, what are the 3 areas that you should delegate? But I would love to hear from you first. Like, what are the 3 things you really think you need to do?
Well, the number one thing is the design. You know, people hire me and my firm to decorate their homes based on my design. So I think that is the most important. And I do have a team and we do work together, and I love keeping them creative too. They're all aspiring designers, and I don't want them just doing paperwork. So I may say, you know, why don't you pull 3 or 4 schemes for, you know, a guest bedroom? And here's my thought. I'd like to start with this, and, you know, give them some guidance with regard to what my vision is of the room, and let them help. But the real design definitely has to come from me. And then part of that, which would be the second item, would be the shopping and the sourcing and anything else I do for inspiration, whether it's travel or museums or, you know, going through magazines, my own library. So that is definitely something that I prioritize. And then the last thing is probably now Instagram. You know, I think that that's really important, that it's my voice. You know, I have a team that gets all of the work done for me, but, you know, our Instagram posts are our visions, and that's incredibly important today.
Super interesting. It's super interesting because, you know, you say, like, you know, the design is such a little part, but it's for you the most important part. And that's where, you know, that's kind of your calling card. So
Absolutely.
Nick, how do you always go in the middle, I realize. We have to switch this up. But Nick, what do you think? What are the 3 areas for you that you do not compromise on, that you do them yourself and that you spend time on?
I mean, much the same as Allison's. The first fun part for me in any project is the initial scheming. So that's me, and I sign off on every fabric, every wallpaper, every trim, every tape in every room, and that's, you know, I'm sort of like only as good as my last room, so to speak, and so I definitely can't delegate that. I would say I do 80% of the shopping. Tara's an incredible shopper. Sometimes the clients are good shoppers on their own. And
sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes not. Also, I'm obsessed with auction houses. So I will be up working at 1 in the morning, but it's fun for me because I'm looking at, you know, every auction on the East Coast, or even some in, you know, we just bid this morning at Phillips in London. That is like probably one of my favorite parts of the job that I will never delegate. And then same for Instagram. Like, somebody said that like having Instagram followers is like being rich in Monopoly money, but for like, it's not about the followers, it's about this presentation of your work and photos that people have never seen. And like Allison said, your own voice and your aesthetic. And I love magazines, but Instagram is something that I can control, and I can control the narrative and the presentation. So it's really fun. So
Margarita, yeah, no, thank you, Margarita. What are your 3 things that you do not give out of your hand?
So I'll have to say that I will have to agree with Nick and Allison as well. So the design part is so important. It's such a key piece of every project. So when I sit down with our clients, I really want to listen to them and learn what are they looking for their space, their new home, their renovation. So and then after I gather all this information, I want to know their lifestyle, what they're looking for. So I'm the one kind of receiving that information that then I can translate into our design through finding inspiration and just pulling that all together. So what I have to bring that is my own style, but also making sure that I am creating the space that they're dreaming for, and the space that they actually reach out for to us to help them with. So all the chopping and the sourcing, as Nick mentioned, the fabrics, the wallpaper, the trim, I think I really need to have my hands on deck on that. Also, one thing that it will be kind of a little extra, just because we do a lot of renovations, we have all the trades and we project manage and execute for our clients. I think it's very important for me to visit the job sites just to see how the progress and how things are going. With that said, I know those are 3, but I mean, social media is definitely a key, and just making sure that we are being present there. Then our clients, followers, potential clients are, looking and seeing what we have to say, what we're up to in a day-to-day, weekly based as well.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because when I listen to you, like it doesn't surprise me too much to hear like people hire you for your design and that's why you don't want to give it out of the hand. I think also, Margarita, what you said at the end, I find very interesting. You're also the ones understanding and talking to the clients the most and understanding them the best. And you're the only one who can really connect both of that together. Really interesting. So when we think about, when I was preparing this, I was thinking about, okay, so how am I making the most out of my own time? It probably also, you can do a negative selection, right? And Nick, I'm going to start with you. Like, what should I not spend my time on? So even if you do, you might do because but what do you think like are the 3 things you should really like try to delegate or just like minimize because you're not feeling like you're adding value?
Excellent question. I am not the best kind of formatter of information. So there's like I said, about the level of detail with this business. If I have 10 auction lots to send to a client saying, do you like this coming up at auction on Saturday? For me, I'm also not the most tech savvy. For me to take the photos and the dimensions and copy and paste would take me like half a day. Whereas, you know, Tara can send that email before I could even stop, you know, before I could even finish my sentence, the email is sent out. So I know that that's not my strength. I have to delegate that. Of course, I have a really good freelance bookkeeper and accountant, which is, you know, so essential in this industry because I do kind of dig macro numbers, but I don't do the nitty gritty sales reports. I obviously don't file my own taxes. So like that is so key to have people like that on your team. Do not try that at home, so to speak. And then what else? I don't delegate any social media. I don't. Oh, I also do. Back to the previous question. I've never hired a PR firm, so I do my own kind of just like right now. But I mean, you know, answering your own. That's something I don't delegate. Like I just answer every email and do every, you know, magazine opportunity that I can do. A third thing, I'll have to think about that. But basically the immediate communication and then the money part. And I can't, it's just not my strength.
Interesting. Allison, is that similar to you, what you do, or what are the three things you just like try to push out because you don't feel it's a good investment of time?
I agree. I'm the least tech savvy person ever. And so all of anything tech related gets delegated to my team. But I have 2 employees for my design firm and they do all of the project coordinating. So that would mean everything from, you know, getting the quotes from vendors and workrooms, preparing the proposals to be sent out to clients, preparing the purchase orders, cutting the checks for vendors. Now I oversee all of that. I approve everything before it goes out to a client or a vendor. But my team does all of that work. So that gives me time to do the more macro tasks at hand with a business. So that's probably the biggest part of it. The other thing I delegate is scheduling. They do all scheduling when it comes to deliveries or installations. You know, we also have some of that to worry about with the shop. So they are responsible for all of that. I'm happy to delegate that and they do a great job. And then, you know, anything with the day-to-day, you know, sort of operations and housekeeping of having 2 locations, they also take care of. And then the last thing, so I'm going to say 4, to Nick's point, is I recently, about a year ago, hired a CFO consultant. And it is the best thing I have ever done. And I can't recommend it highly enough for any small business. Again, that's not my expertise. I'm not a CFO. I'm a decorator. And I don't really, you know, I don't want to know about the taxes as much as I have to, and all of the reports. So to have somebody on your team that oversees that and you have monthly meetings has been just a lifesaver, especially during the time of COVID.
Very interesting. And I'm already seeing some questions popping up also in the Q&A. We're going to get to that in a minute. Margarita, what are you really delegating? Where do you feel like you're not going to add value?
Yeah, so I think it's a mix between Allison and Nick. Definitely, you know, I really want to be smart about how I allocate my time. So everything that has to do with communicating with vendors and getting quotes and getting proposal out for clients and purchase orders. I have somebody in our team that will take care of that, oversee that. And then as well, you know, always a weekly report where every single piece is at when the piece will be arriving, so we can schedule deliveries and installations for our renovation project as well as our decorating projects. Also, we have somebody in our team that is taking care of all the bookkeeping and all the taxes and all that, reconciling numbers for us, making sure that we're not making any double payments and things like that, where yeah, I definitely see value in having that person that is going to be focused on that in the business side for sure. We also, just because we do a lot of renovations, we have our project manager that is going to be visiting the job sites in a daily basis or whenever we need, and and we need somebody to be there, oversee any material installation or lighting and so on. So I will go and visit the job site maybe once a week or when we're making any design decision, but having that person in our team that is overseeing the daily activities, I think for me is key, is very important, because I cannot be everywhere, all the time. So
very interesting. I'm, listening to you, none of you have mentioned, neither in like your time breakdown nor in like what you really do yourself is new customer acquisition. And I think, especially in times like that, I feel like as an outsider, I put myself into your shoes, and, you have 2, 3 projects or 5 projects or how many projects you have. And at some point they're going to be, you're done, and what comes next, right? As an entrepreneur, you always think about like, what is next? And I would love, and Margarita, maybe we just start with you again right away. Like, how much time do you dedicate to that? And do you do that constantly, or do you have a moment in time where you're like, oh my God, my project is over in 2 months, I should get out again? Like, how do you do that?
No, I mean, we make sure that we're doing this in a very constant basis, just reaching out to colleagues, going to events, going to different events where we can have that outreach, and for those potential projects, and just keeping the pipeline going. We usually like to connect with clients and ask them for referrals, past clients, just keep us in mind whenever we finish a project. If you have a neighbor, a friend, or somebody coming from out of town moving to Denver that may be needing an interior designer. So that is an important part, because when you are a small business, I mean, you need to keep that pumping, right? Just to create that level of security and having that vision in a macro. So making sure that we are booking projects in a constant basis in a 6-8 months out.
Interesting. Nick, how do you do that? Like, I assume also you're not delegating that. So
I'm not. I mean, knock on wood. From when I started my company, I was very lucky with the clients that I worked with early on, who just started referring me to their friends, which turned into long-term professional relationships. Multiple homes for the same client. I've done 3 projects for amazing clients in Ohio, 4 for a fabulous person who works in real estate who never stops moving and having me redecorate, which is fabulous for me. So that's very good job security. But I would say I'm not the best at kind of like drumming up new business in terms of sending out an email blast, or, because there's just so much to do in a single day. At the same time, I do try to stay on people's radar and go to events and stay active on Instagram and keep, pursuing press opportunities to kind of stay relevant, I guess. But somebody said that press begets press, and, clients beget clients. So I tend to agree that it comes more from referral and doing a solid job for somebody who says, oh, well, my friends just moved to an apartment in Tribeca, like, you should meet with them. And that's kind of how it works for me. But I think I should do probably more just like getting out there, talking to real estate agents, talking to like contractors. But it's just sort of the last thing on my list at the end of the day when there's so much to manage. So.
Yeah. Allison, if I alter you the question a little bit, also because we just got in the chat another question, like, has it changed? Has COVID changed for you the way of getting new business or new customers? This is a newcomer who's just wondering, like, how do you find customers these days?
I don't think it's really changed. I haven't seen a change. But your original question, you bring up a really good point that the 3 of us never even spoke about that. It's something that I find, even though it has to be done constantly, the networking, whether it's with architects or real estate agents or your existing clients. You kind of always just have to be out there. But you get really busy on day-to-day, deadlines and meetings and your projects. And, I travel a lot for my work. I do a lot of work on the East Coast, so I'm on a plane constantly. So it's something that is really important to always stay on top of. And, I do get a lot of referrals. I actually also get quite a bit of work from my shop. That has been, since I opened that shop 3 years ago, it was a bit of a game changer for my client base in San Francisco in particular. It's a very different aesthetic for the West Coast. It's much more East Coast. And there's, a population of people in San Francisco who want that design. So that has been the difference for me. But I haven't seen anything change really in terms of COVID, other than people are wanting to do their homes.
So, and be out there on Instagram and social media. I think also, Nick, you said talking to contractors, talking to real estate agents, so that anyone who is somehow involved in the sale or the purchase of a house might have you on top of your mind, no?
Absolutely.
And I mean, me also being located in New York, I hear all day long how, moving companies are moving apartments to the suburbs and outside, and upside, Nick, you talked about upstate, I'm sure you already have a lot of offers on your table because people are, wanting to move outside. So there is a lot of movement happening. And also we at Schumacher, we really feel an uptick in business that this is happening. Very interesting. If you, if we switch to the next question, and it's about delegation. So you all have, 1, 2, 3, 4 team members on your team. And I think everyone who has led a team before knows that you sit in a meeting and you say something and you think you're super clear. And then 3 days later you come back and you're like, what did I speak Chinese or, German in my case, or, so what are your tricks like, or what do you do in order to make a meeting and delegating as efficient and effective as possible? Margarita, do you want to start?
Sure. So I really like to prepare. So we usually have our weekly meetings on Monday morning, and I prepare beforehand, where I just sit down for a few minutes myself, just writing down notes of on every single project that we have going on. So then Monday we sit down as a team, being a small team, everybody knows what their, our responsibilities are. So that way we set the tone. We kind of talk about every single project, where they are at and what is going to be happening that week, so we can plan the week ahead and make sure that everybody is clear of what everybody is gonna be doing. And with that said, it's also a process of when, overseeing everybody and helping each other just to move things along and make sure that the project keep moving forward and as is expected.
Allison, how do you do that so that you're not like 3 days later getting the big surprise?
Right, similar. And again, I keep going back to COVID, and when COVID started, we're all working from home, so we had daily Zoom meetings. And I think to Margarita's point is I have to be very prepared for those meetings. And I would take time and, per team member, the things that I thought that they should be working on, did you get everything done yesterday? Are you okay for today? This is for tomorrow. So we've somewhat stuck to the daily meetings. It's a great way to start the day, to sort of connect with each other. And one thing that I'd like to mention is that I delegate, but I discuss with my staff if they like this idea. If I say, I'd like you to do this, does that work for you? Or maybe, we should do it differently. So it's a discussion rather than me saying, okay, you need to do this and you need to do that. So as a team, we figure out the best way to get through each day and the volume of work that needs to be done. Now, a lot of this has had to do with an installation and, you know, a lot of planning. So we truly had to divide and conquer. But I really like the daily meetings. It's a great way to start the day.
Nick, what's like your number one trick to share with us, like how you do that no one in the, you know, no one participated in that entertaining is getting frustrated?
Wait, sorry, rephrase the question. What's my one trick for what?
No, what I meant was like, you know, so what is your number one advice so that, you know, like, because you have this meeting with your team member, so neither you nor the team member gets frustrated.
Well, I would say clone my office manager, because at this point we worked together for so long that it's almost like we're in a, you know, work period mind meld where we kind of know everything that's going on with each project all the time, which is great most of the time. But I would say we're very in tune with our client schedules and how quickly their projects change and how quickly their personal lives change, which is a little bit weird. It's like, no, we're staying in the Hamptons an extra 2 months. So basically you have an extra 2 months to finish, or guess what? Our contractor pushed back the timeline. So it's always like a sliding scale, but I find that I'm very list based, and an email list of, guess what? The client's feedback is this, we're doing this, this, this. It helps me to type it out. And of course it helps Tara to, you know, figure out how to change the proposals, how to change, you know, how to pivot. That, like, this business never gets boring, but it's also constantly changing. And there are many factors out of a designer's control, but it's just kind of like staying in touch with her 10 to 6, staying in touch with the clients to manage their expectations of how things are progressing. And then hopefully you're getting the same thing from them. It's like, if the client doesn't tell you they're coming back early from California or the Hamptons, then you're just like, you should have let me know that because your kid's room isn't finished. But it's just all these moving parts that it's staying in constant touch. And like Allison said, it's a discussion, it's not a directive. I need Tara to help me strategize with, how do we revise this contract? Like, you know, this vendor can't do this on time. Do we find somebody else? So it's constant problem solving, but it's just, you know, if I go dark on the text or email for 3 hours, like, it's a problem.
Yeah, interesting. So we have like good 13 minutes left, and I would love to start the Q&A session, and we already have a couple of questions here. So everyone who is listening, please feel free to write a time-related question into the chat. We try to get through all of them. So, you know, we have the first question, and what we do is, like, you know, I'm going to read it, and then whoever of you guys go first, you know, that would be great. Let's see how that works. Which area of the business are growth areas? Which demographics is most receptive to interior design business in 2020 and beyond? So do you already, I think I would love to add to that, can you already feel, you know, like, do you already feel something there, or is that just recurring business?
I feel, you know, it could be regional. Nick and I both live in cities. Margarita, I'm not sure if you're actually in Denver or not, but, you know, especially now, we have seen a tremendous turnover in real estate. I have 2 clients who have sold their homes and purchased new ones. And that's why we're in limbo. We're sort of waiting for them to move in and get started. But I feel that the trend for 2021 is just that. You know, I think things have changed, and they were going to continue to change, and moving out of cities, more to the suburbs. Things are still uncertain for 21 in terms of kids and school. Hopefully we'll be back on track, but nobody really knows. So we're going to be living with this in terms of our interior design businesses and careers for, I'm sure, through next year. So I'm not sure if that answers the question. I don't think it's so much about design trends. I think it's about movement.
But I think movement is a really good point, Allison, because if we believe in movement and not just, like, you know, small renovations, then you know where you can as an interior designer go in is that you speak with brokers, that we speak with the developers, that you know follow, you know, that you speak with people, you know, are you planning on moving, or so that you follow that move. I think that is a growth area for everyone in our industry probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that I would like to add, yes, I'm actually in Denver, and we have seen in the past few years, I mean, a growth of people just pouring into Denver, looking for the outdoors and the sunshine that we are blessed to have almost year round. Since everything started with COVID, I have to say that we have got many calls from clients out of state that they just purchased a home that actually they have never seen, and they need somebody to get them ready because they have little ones, and they just want everybody to renovate, decorate, even help them with the move-in, just for them to just land. So we have a number of projects right now where it's this situation that we haven't even meet the clients in person, and they reach out for us to just get everything ready for them to move into the state. So I think that's something that we see that it's going to keep happening at least until next year for sure.
Interesting. Does any one of you use a software to help them track your time? I use Outlook. Personally, I use everything, you know, I have my whole day like slated into Outlook, you know, that's my software. You can add anyone who should be part of the meeting. You know, you have deadlines automated with that. So I love that, but I don't know whether you guys use something else.
Designer friends of mine have recommended those apps. There's one, I'm going to forget the name, but there's an app to help you keep track of your time for each client. But I am such a Luddite. I have an iPhone 7 Plus that I won't replace because I don't want to lose the home button. So I can't be taught new tricks. I don't think I could adapt to that and just stop to remember to like, oh, that was for so-and-so client. Oh, wait, like I get too easily distracted as it is. It would just really throw me off course.
But Nick, also just on an anecdotal, I know a lot of people that went back to the older iPhones because you can use your fingerprint and you don't need to use your face recognition with the mask that doesn't work anymore. So you're totally on trend. You're totally on trend.
Thank you.
Next question from Haley. What is the best way to tell a client that something they own is horrible, but they want to keep it? That's a good one.
That is good.
What's your trick?
My stock phrase is we can do better. It's always we can do better. You don't insult the thing, but that's the truth. We can do better. So let me find you something that's going to be better.
Perfectly said.
Thank you.
Well, sometimes I will also say something like, well, that doesn't work anymore with what we're doing. You know, this is a new space, a new home. We're bringing a new vision, and this particular piece doesn't work here anymore.
I'm stealing that one too.
Next question I have is, how do you manage clients who have a difficult time making design decisions? I currently have a client who spins their wheels and changes their mind so often that it's beginning to hold up the overall project. I have offered my professional opinion and input, but they still have trouble making a move. Advice.
I've had a similar situation, multiple similar situations, and it's challenging. You know, I always put myself in my client's shoes as well. You know, these are big decisions, and not everyone is as confident in making the decisions as someone else may be. But I just try to gently remind them that, you know, time is money. And the more we spend shopping for new fabrics or, you know, reviewing the design over and over again, it's costing them more money. And I always start a project and say, the faster you make a decision, the less expensive this process will be. And hopefully that helps.
And that's not only because you might be charging by the hour, it's also because you might need storage. They might move in later and like have a double rent or whatever that is, right?
Mm-hmm, sure, absolutely.
Does any one of you, another question, does any one of you have hired a business developer marketing consultant?
I do. So we
Tell us
have,
a little about it.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Oh, sorry. Tell us a little about it. Sorry, Margarita.
Yes, so we have a team of support that help us out, making sure that our website is updated, that we're sending our blogs and more information, just to keep our social media channels open with our LinkedIn and all that. And I think that it's such an important piece on the business, and sometimes I get a little bit busy with everything else. Then I just feel that having somebody supporting me, and then before everything goes out, I'll take a look, I approve everything, I make sure that what we're going to be publishing is showing our brand, is showing what we do and what we offer to our clients. But I think that actually, brings a lot of value into our organization for sure.
Thank you.
I agree. I have the same. I kind of look at my business as, a management team that I have in place. So it's the CFO that I had mentioned, a CPA, a bookkeeper who does all of our books, and a fantastic PR firm. And, again, I'm not an expert in any of those things. So I always appreciate the guidance and the structure of having them there to help me. So I recommend it. It's great.
And I think, Allison, what you mentioned also, which I find very interesting, they don't all need to be full-time employees. They can be freelancers or contractors. And you have them, like they still can be of help, and they can still be part of your leadership meeting, if you will. Mm-hmm. How are you finding freelance accountants? I have an idea, but I let you answer first.
How are we finding freelance accountants?
Yeah, or freelancers in general. How do you find them?
I have an ongoing email chain with my designer friends, and if somebody needs a recommendation for anything, it doesn't happen every day because we're all busy people, but I freely share my sources. I would tell Allison or Margarita, my accountant, right now if they need one. I love this man, but I basically go to my colleagues and hope that they're as kind of transparent as I am.
No, it's interesting you say that, because I would do the same. And even through Instagram, even if you don't know each other in person, you can still reach out, and ask. And I think during COVID and Zoom and so on, the accountant doesn't even necessarily be like one block away from you. So that was an anonymous question, but I think, reach out to, a couple of people, or you don't know on Instagram, who are interior designers, and some of them will share, I think.
Sure.
Do any of you use a project management software besides maybe Excel or something like that? If so, what have you found that's been helpful?
Yes, well, we do. We use a software called Project Management, where we have every project laid out with all the tasks that need to be completed, and our project manager is the one in charge of that. So when we have our weekly meeting, we kind of go in a highlight level where all the projects are standing, where are we waiting for, and what's the progress, so we can keep our clients updated. And it's really helpful because that way everybody knows and everybody gets assigned what are the tasks that they need to be taken care of. In that case, I get a lot of selection and design tasks, and then our team member who is in charge of procurement then will get those tasks, and then we kind of go over everything once a week just to make sure that everybody is on top of it, and what is the percentage of completion that we have per project and per task.
And help us again with the name of the program.
Just project manager, that's it. Okay. So, and it's very friendly and easy to use. And again, that's not my forte. Our project manager is the one assigning the tasks, but it's really easy to use, and I will highly recommend it.
Fantastic.
I use Design Manager. I've been using it for 20 years. And that software takes care of pretty much everything project management related, expediting, etc. And again, I have to, incorporate my shop. So fortunately, I keep both businesses under the same umbrella for project management. So I love Design Manager.
I also use Design Manager and we don't have a specific project manager app, but we had 2 projects last year that where the contractor wanted to use Workplace. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. It's owned by Facebook. It's sort of like Facebook, but for work. And it was a blessing and a curse because it was all hands on deck speaking in one platform about, you know, site visits, details of the job, but you would also get an email every time you got a message on Workplace, which is, I just spend my whole day deleting emails. Like, it made me crazy. So I don't fully recommend Workplace, but it's out there.
Thank you, Nick. So the hour is almost over. I screened some of your questions. Some of your questions are related to, you know, do designers and this panel, you know, charge hourly or, you know, with a markup fee and so on. We won't be able to answer all of those questions, but what I recommend is that you go, you know, you either, you know, search in YouTube for Business Success Webinar Schumacher, or you go to my Instagram page, Benni_Frowein, and you see all the historic webinars. We had one where we had a panel talking about how they charge, and that was incredibly open and transparent with percentages, times, so watch that. It's really, really good. And for everyone who joined late, you know, again, you can see this one probably even tonight already on YouTube. Thank you for joining, and a huge, huge thank you, Margarita, Allison, and Nick, to you 3. Thank you for making this so pleasant, insightful, sharing your tips. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone reaches out via DM to you guys asking you for your accountant tonight.
I'll share. Thank you, Benni and Schumacher, very much for hosting.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.